Allergies, and welcome to the current setup in my studio. I am doing some filming, hopefully for a new Skillshare class. This is the piece I'm working on. I wanted to show you how I set up this time for filming. Usually I have my desk all the way pushed back against that window, but when I film, in order to be able to get the tripod behind it with the little swing arm thing and a light, I need to move it out from the wall a bit. So last time I had the desk kind of going the other direction, so it was perpendicular to the wall rather than parallel from the wall. But I just wanted to try something a little bit different since that last arrangement felt like it totally took over my entire studio. And this way I at least have a little bit more room to get around. So it's still kind of chaotic, but I think it's better than we had before. So yeah, I've got 3 light sources this way too. So I have the window is one light source, and then this is a natural light lamp. It honestly doesn't feel that natural. It feels like pretty cold and blue, but with the light from the window and then the light from the ring light as well, it all balances out and works pretty well to give a nice sense of lightness, but also a color that isn't too jarring. So I'll just have all of these on once I start filming, and then I'm using my camera here, my DSLR. I have used the Canon G7X, which is what I'm filming on right now. I have used that for filming time lapses and tutorials before, but right now, since I finally have a DSLR that has a flip out screen, I just have it set up directly over me, and then I can just easily glance up and see the screen and make sure that I'm still recording, that I haven't run out of time, and that I have everything in the frame as I want it to be. So this is actually my older, less expensive tripod, or actually no, maybe this one was, neither tripod I have is actually that expensive. I think they were both in like $60 to $70 range, so they're not super fancy, but this is my older tripod, and it's my less preferred tripod, my least favorite tripod, because you have to adjust it. You have to screw these things and unscrew these things, and my other one just has really quick little flip tabs. But I have to use it for this because it's the only one that attaches well to the swing arm. For whatever reason, the other one just doesn't attach really snug, so it ends up kind of tipping. So I just have my swing arm on it, and then I have made my own little counterbalance weight. I've had this for like, I don't know, a couple of years now, so who knows what's in the water in there, but that is how I make sure it doesn't tip forward when I have the camera on it. I will definitely link this in the description box, because every time I show it, people always ask about it. And then I can try to link the tripod. The tripod's pretty old. I'm not sure if it will be in there or not, but this is the setup for today. This is most likely what I'm going to be spending most of the day on. Since there's not a lot going on in this vlog besides painting, I figured I would chat with you guys a little bit. First up, just explaining that you are seeing a little bit of the process that I actually started on this piece yesterday. A minute ago, you will have seen it at a more of a completed phase. Right now, you're watching some of the process that I was working on yesterday, the earlier phases. Yeah, I think I mentioned that this is going to be a piece for Skillshare. It's an example piece for a new Skillshare class, and I'm trying to do it completely in watercolor pencils. That's something that's been requested quite a bit, and it's definitely a challenge for me since I am just kind of a mixed media junkie, and that is definitely my comfort zone, being able to rely on using lots of different types of media. So using just one is a challenge for sure, and I will be able to tell you more about that at a later date after this piece has been finished. For now, I put out a little call on Instagram because I knew I was going to have these longer painting sections, and I asked you guys for ideas of things to talk about, since I didn't want to just blather on. And a number of you sent things in, and I'm going to read actually a couple. Well, probably for now, I'll just read one from Nora. Nora asks if I had any future goals, growth, skills, or achieving something. Yeah, so I think I am, a goal of mine actually is working on being a more goal-oriented person. I think I was a very goal-oriented person in the past. And I guess when I say goal-oriented, I mean somebody who has like big picture goals, or like really far out goals that are further out than like, a couple of days or a month. And that was
I don't know. I know that that can be a strength, but for me, it was a challenge and actually more of a weakness earlier on when I was first getting started. And it was something that kept me from focusing on the day-to-day goals. Or I guess I was so focused on the big picture goals, and those were the only kinds of goals that I knew how to come up with, that I didn't really understand how to break them down into the daily goals. So what ended up getting me out of that was focusing more on the day-to-day and on what I could do that day, and less on the big picture goals. And I think I have grown better just sort of organically over time at some of the big picture stuff, but I still probably am somebody who mostly just looks out like a couple of months, and I will have some vague, broad ideas of what I want to get done in a year, but that's not been like a huge focus for me. And I'm at the phase in my career where I'm feeling like I need to get better at doing that. So I'm really good at making timelines and staying on track with timelines. I'm working on client projects, but I think I need to get better at coming up with like my own big picture goals, I guess. So that is a goal to get better at my own big picture goals and planning. And I guess that has some skills involved in it too. Yeah, I think I do have some like vague ideas about things that I'd like to achieve and skills that I'd like to improve on. I mean, I always, in terms of skills, like I always just want to get better at painting. And I think that that's part of what I love about art and illustration, is that it always feels like there's room to grow there. I never reach a point where I'm like, oh yes, now I have all the skills I want. I can paint exactly what I want to. There are still things that I think of and ideas that I have that I don't have the skills to execute yet. So, and that's a positive to me. That's something that really makes me excited, and something that I find really motivating. So yeah, I guess the concrete skills that I can say are just more art skills. I still just want to get better and better at painting. Yeah, so I will come back to you on that when I have actually gotten some of those big picture goals down on paper and have an idea of what they are. Yeah, maybe I'll do a video on that once I get to that point. It is something I've been thinking about quite a lot, actually, so it's kind of an interesting timing for that question.
Hey guys, I feel like I probably look a little bit wild right now. I am having some super bad eye allergies today, and I'm just scratching my eyes constantly. I ordinarily would take Benadryl, but because I'm nursing, I don't want to take any Benadryl, but my eyes are just like going nuts. So I apologize if I look like a crazy person. Yeah, it's about 2 o'clock. I have finished up with the geode painting. I know I said it was for a Skillshare class. I can't remember if I mentioned that I tried to do the entire thing in watercolor pencils, because that's been something a lot of you guys have requested. I use watercolor pencils regularly as like the base layer, but I never really have used them to complete an entire painting on their own. And I did finally, I completed most of the painting, but I did end up at the end using a tiny bit of Posca marker. I just couldn't escape it. So yeah, I did all of the color, though, is 100% in watercolor pencil. So we'll see how that turns out. What's next? I am still waiting for the final approval on that packaging project that I was working on last week. Well, actually, not even the final approval. I'm waiting to receive feedback on the fully rendered illustrations, and then I may need to make some color adjustments for those. I have to look at the timeline, but I think I was supposed to have those by like yesterday or the day before yesterday. So we're definitely a couple days behind at this point, but when the client delays getting me feedback, I have it written into my contract that the ultimate deadline of the project would just get bumped out however many days they were delayed. So if they are delayed 3 days, then the final deadline is bumped out 3 days, 3 business days. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm just kind of curious to see what it will be. And I'm still in negotiations / planning for that project that was that I had the conference call for last week. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there, but the rest of this afternoon, I'm probably just going to paint some more. So I hope you're in the mood to see some more painting footage. I also have posted on Instagram yesterday Normally on Patreon, once a month, I do these critiques where everybody has a chance to submit a piece of work, and then all my patrons vote on which one they want to see critiqued. But this month, there were submissions, but they were both a few days late. So since there were no on-time submissions, I decided to put out an open call on Instagram. And there were a lot of submissions, so I just put together a slate of 8 and let people vote. People have already voted. I think by the time you guys see this, actually, I may have put the video out, but I'm telling you about it because this month, since the call for submissions was public, the video is going to be public as well. So my patrons will still get it 24 hours early, but it will be something that everybody can see. So you'll see the piece that was chosen through voting on Instagram, and then we'll see it get a critique. So I might actually do 2 pieces because the piece that got the most votes got like 97% of the hundreds of votes. So that's a little suspicious to me because there were a lot of really good submissions, and a lot of submissions that I think were, well, I shouldn't say I think, I know, I can see that a lot of the other voting was just a lot tighter. So there's just kind of relatively evenly distributed with a winner that's a few votes ahead versus like this 90-something% lead. So, and when I look, I can't see like the IP addresses or whatever, but I can see that there were not as many unique visitors as there were votes. All that to say, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not blaming the person who submitted that piece. I think probably that piece would have been near the top anyway, but I think I'm going to do 2. So I'll do a critique for that one, and then a critique for the number 2 spot, which would have definitely been the winner if there wasn't whatever's happening with the number 1. I don't know if there's like a bot or if there's a super fan of this person's work just repeatedly voting over and over and over again. That's what it looks like if I look at the activity logs. So, yeah, that is the plan. I probably will record those tomorrow though. So yeah, you'll just see some more painting today, and that'll be it.
Hope you guys are in the mood for some more painting. This painting is another one for a Skillshare class. I haven't come up with like the concept for this class. You know, the one that I was working on earlier, I feel like I already have a pretty good concept. It's going to be something about like geodes or a rock collection with watercolor pencils. And this one, I don't know what I'm going to call it, but I think it is going to have some really good concrete skills. I wanted to focus on portraits that were in really, really dramatic lighting and really high levels of contrast and really obvious light and dark, both because I think they look cool. And I actually think that that kind of portrait, that kind of setting is easier for beginners because you can really clearly see the form of the subject, and light and dark is very clearly differentiated. And I think some of the more challenging aspects of any painting are the midtones, which usually make up most of a piece or most of a subject. But in this case, I'm working on something that is really, really super high contrast, which you will see as I continue working on it. Yeah, and of course, I'll tell you guys more details about the class as that emerges, hopefully in the next couple of months. It really will depend on what my pace for client work is. I could have it out in, a couple of weeks, or it could be 3 months from now. So we'll see. While I'm painting, I wanted to answer the other half of Nura's question, which is, how do you see your future as a traditional artist in the digital age? Yeah, that is a question I've been asked more and more recently, and it hasn't been something that made me nervous, but because people have been asking it so much recently, I guess I have been a little bit nervous about it. But what I've been trying to tell myself, and what it seems like might be true, although maybe it's just wishful thinking, is that as we move into a time where more and more things are made by machines and algorithms, and where much of the art that we see is digital and computer generated. This is not at all hating on digital art. I love digital art, and I do digital painting myself sometimes, although it's not as big of a part, not nearly as big of a part as what I do as traditional painting. But yeah, as all of that becomes more and more common, I think there will be still a demand for things that look handmade and that look, that have that human component to them. There's a certain feeling, there's a certain aesthetic you really can only get from art that is made by hand, and digital art is made by hand too. What do I mean by that? Art that is physical, that is imperfect, irregular paint splatters and marks of a pencil on top of a unique piece of paper that, that texture only exists on that particular piece of paper, and that way that you made that mark only happened that one time when you made that mark. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense or if it sounds overly romantic, but that is part of what I love about traditional illustration and traditional painting, is that it is the very definition of unique. And even if you're painting something that has been painted a million times before, which, for somebody like me who does commercial food illustration, that is usually what I'm doing. I'm never painting something that's, occasionally I'm painting something that's totally unique that I've never painted, but usually I'm painting something that I've already done quite a bit before. And having, that unique piece of paper, the unique paint, the brush that is splayed in just that particular way, that adds a lot to it for me. And I think that, most of my clients, most of the people that come to me are coming to me looking for traditional work. And that demand has only increased over the last few years since I have been a freelancer. So I don't know. I think I do my best to try to stay on top of technology. So, if you watch my channel, you know that I don't use the Adobe suite because I don't like their model. But that being said, I do still use tools that enable me to edit my illustrations in a way that makes them compatible with the digital age and makes it so that people can just drop them into whatever layout program they're using. Clients can just drop them into whatever layout program they're using. And then I have done some digital painting commissions. It's not a big part of what I do, but that is a skill that I have worked to build up as well. So if for some reason the traditional media apocalypse comes and nobody is looking for traditional media anymore, I imagine I will just develop new skills and kind of lean harder on that. Oops, sorry, I just bumped my desk. That was what that noise was. Yeah, lean harder on the digital realm of my skills. So I think I'm just going to make a decision to prepare for it a little bit, but to not be too stressed about it. And that's usually how I approach most things in life. Okay, so I think I'm actually going to end this video here. So thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you to everybody who commented in last week's video and the video before that. I appreciate all of you who are watching and who are sharing. And I especially appreciate my patrons who have sponsored this video and who make it possible for me to have a video editor, which makes it possible for me to put videos out every week. And of course, thanks to Meg who edited this video. And I hope everybody has a great week, and I will see you in the next video. I said video so many times. Okay, bye-bye.